Hello everyone. So this is going to be just a brief overview of our reading for this week and the next several weeks, which is Thomas Jefferson's Notes on the State of Virginia. I want to place this text in its time period. It was written in the early 1780s, but it wasn't published until 1785. So it was written in the midst of wartime. It was written in the midst of the American Revolutionary War. The war started, as we probably all know, in 1776. It ended in 1783. So when he's writing it, it's still wartime. But by the time it's published, the war has ended. Now, Jefferson started writing Notes on the State of Virginia when he received a questionnaire by a man named Francois Marbois. I mispronounced that, but I gave it my best shot. Who was the secretary of the French delegation to the United States. Now, this is particularly important given the time period in the middle of the American Revolution, because the French were allies with the United States in the Revolutionary War, but not right away. And there was a process through wartime of convincing them of the value of allying with the United States. Now, not only, however, was Jefferson writing to French people or the French state, the French elites, but he was also writing with the knowledge that Europeans, many Europeans, not all, but many, especially the elites, looked down on America as a kind of backwards place, a backwater, the boonies, right? However you would put that makes sense to you, that didn't have a lot of potential to become a great country, despite the expanse of the territory available if they were willing to push out Native Americans, which, spoiler alert, of course they were. So, but Jefferson's also writing with a sense of defensiveness, just not in terms of impressing the French, but impressing all of Europe, with the potential for the United States to become this magnificent republic. Now, he starts responding to the set of questions he's sent by the French delegate. But in the section we're reading over the next 2 weeks in particular, he is responding not directly, because he didn't get a direct question from Buffon, but he's responding indirectly to a French naturalist named Comte de Buffon, who had a theory about the natural environment of the Americas, and he said that the natural environment of the Americas is detrimental to creating large, sturdy, impressive, powerful wildlife. It's just not a good place for an impressive array of impressive animals. Now, you might pause for a moment and ask, why do animals have to be large to be impressive? And that's a very extremely good point. Right? Obviously, there's nothing inherently impressive about animals being large. But I don't think I have to explain to you the general and particularly American mindset of big is better. And so Jefferson is kind of taking him to task about this, and he's arguing that he doesn't really know what he's talking about, and our moose and raccoon and beavers are, just as big as the ones that you'll find in Europe. And it's also why he goes on and on about mammoths, right? Because mammoths, were pretty impressive creatures, and the reason why Jefferson is inclined to entertain the notion that there are still mammoths around somewhere, maybe in the wilds of Canada or something, right? It wasn't called Canada at the time, but now it would be called Canada. So again, Jefferson is really trying to push back on this idea that America is not a land by its natural environment destined for greatness, right? That is what he is detecting that Buffon is implying, and Jefferson's trying to push back on that and say, no, we have all the natural gifts, resources, environment we need here to create an extraordinary nation, an extraordinary republic. I want you to pay particular attention, though, as you go through the reading over the next several weeks, of how and where he discusses Native Americans. What section are they in? What is he discussing immediately prior to talking about Native Americans? Because they also come up a lot in this questionnaire he's responding to, and we can learn a lot about Jefferson's ideas about Native Americans by paying close attention to his discussions here. And later, we're going to learn, it's in the reading in a few weeks, we're going to learn a lot about his views on slavery and black people as it relates to what he believes their natural genetic fates are. So that is going to contrast to a significant degree with how he talks about Native Americans. So zone in on that in particular in your reading if, you have limited energy or attention span. I want you to particularly make sure that you take note of it. Now, I do also want to acknowledge that this is not the easiest reading in the world. It's going to take time. You'll probably have to go through it slowly. Fortunately, there's lots of these charts and graphs. That means it's a lot shorter than a first glance at the page number span might indicate. Also, do not worry about the portions in French, right? There's a whole slew of a whole paragraph of French in your reading for this week, for example. Just skip it unless you know how to read French, right? Which by all means, go for it. Likewise with the footnotes. Don't worry about them. They're not part of the assigned reading. And as for the charts that Jefferson provides, right, to try to provide statistical information to back up his claims, peruse them well enough to understand their purpose, right, but do not worry, I'm not going to be quizzing you on these random stats that he has in all of these charts.